Back on Earth, no one cheered. They had seen too much death. Instead, President Elena Ruiz stood in the war room watching the final ship vanish from the star map. "It's over," General Hayes said quietly, but Ruiz shook her head. "Not over, just changed." She knew the Council would not send another fleet, not after this, but they would never accept humanity as equals, and humanity could never trust them again. So Earth made a choice, not of war but of separation. Project Veil began that night. Using the full power of the Silent Choir, Maya Briggs triggered a galaxy-wide chronoton cascade, not just near Sol, but along every known hyperspace lane that led to human space. The pulses didn't destroy the lanes. They corrupted them, made them unstable. Any ship trying to jump near a human world would be torn apart by space-time shear. It was a wall, invisible, unbreakable, built not with steel but with physics. Then came the nanites. Designed by labs on Titan and tested in the void near Pluto, the nanite clouds were harmless to life. But to technology, they were death. Programmed to seek out non-human alloys and circuits, they would swarm any alien ship that crossed the new border and dismantle it piece by piece. Not violently, quietly like rust, but faster. Within hours, a warship would become scrap. The border was set at the edge of the Oort cloud. Beyond that, the galaxy could do as it pleased. Inside, humanity would be alone. Safe. Nora Finch broadcast the final message from Proxima B. No anger. No threats. Just truth. "We do not hate you," she said, her voice calm. "But we will not live under your judgment. From this day, our space is closed. Cross it, and your machines will die. Your ships will fail. We will not attack you, but we will not welcome you either. This is our home, and we are done explaining why we deserve it." The message was sent on every frequency in every known language. Then all human transmitters went silent. Not off, just quiet. Listening but not speaking. Across human space, colonies powered down non-essential systems. Warships returned to hidden docks. Factories shifted back to building homes, not weapons. Children went to school again. Farmers planted new crops under open domes. Life returned but changed. Everyone knew the peace was fragile, but it was theirs. Lena Torres stood on the surface of Mars looking up at the stars. She wore a simple pressure suit, no rank, no title, just a human being on a human world. In her hand, she held a small data chip, the last recording of Daniel Cross. She buried it in the red soil, marking the spot with a smooth stone. "Rest now," she whispered. "We've got watch." On Earth, Ruiz walked alone through a quiet park in Denver. Rain fell softly, the kind Daniel used to love. She thought of the billions who had lived, fought, and died so humanity could choose its own path, not as part of a galactic order, not as subjects, but as a people who decided their own fate. Hayes retired soon after. He moved to a cabin in the mountains, far from screens and signals. He spent his days fishing and his nights watching the stars, knowing that out there the veil held strong. Maya Briggs stayed in the bunker, not as a soldier, but as a guardian. She monitored the nanite borders, the choir network, the quiet hum of human space. If anything crossed the line, she would know, and she would act. Years passed. Human ships explored deeper into their own territory, finding new worlds, building new homes. They traded with each other, shared stories, raised families. They never forgot what happened. But they didn't live in fear either. The galaxy moved on. New powers rose. Old ones fell. The Galactic Council fractured, then faded into history. Some species tried to send messages past the veil. Polite ones, curious ones, all went unanswered. The nanites saw to that. Humanity did not become monsters, but it became something else, something the galaxy had never seen. A species that chose isolation not out of hate, but out of love. Love for its children, for its future, for the right to exist without permission. And in the silent dark between stars, Earth's message remained, not in words, but in action. We are here. We are ready. And we are done being judged. The stars shone cold and distant, but within the veil, humanity burned bright. A quiet fire, steady and strong, lighting its own way home. Alaxi's underdog, but as its equal, maybe more. News of the battle spread fast, not through official channels, but through whispers, encrypted bursts, and colony comms. On Proxima B, miners cheered as they welded railgun mounts onto cargo haulers. On Titan, engineers reprogrammed methane harvesters to carry warheads. Even the small research outpost near Sirius began building signal jammers from spare parts. Lena Torres stood on the observation deck of a recovery station near Mars, watching the debris field drift. Among the wreckage floated a piece of Krell hull still twitching faintly. She didn't feel joy, only grim satisfaction. Daniel would have liked this, she said softly. Maya Briggs, back in her bunker, received a new alert. Deep space sensors picked up movement near Alpha Centauri. Not Krell, something else, smaller, faster. Scouts, maybe. Or spies. She didn't panic. She logged the data and sent it to Hayes. Then she ran a system check on the silent choir. All nodes green, ready for round 2. In the void, the last Krell drone sputtered and died. Silence returned to the outer solar system. But it was a different silence now. Not empty, not afraid. It was the silence of a trap reset, of a predator waiting. Earth did not celebrate. It prepared. And far away in the glittering halls of the Galactic Council, the first whispers of doubt began to spread. The humans were not broken. They were awake, and they had teeth. News of the Krell defeat spread through human space like wildfire through dry grass. It didn't come in grand announcements or victory parades. It came in coded bursts from Mars, in quiet comms between freighters, in the hushed voices of colonists gathered around flickering screens in domes on icy moons. The message was simple. Earth fought back, and won. On Proxima B, a world of red dust and thin air, the mining colony had long been ignored by the Galactic Council. They called it a resource outpost, not a home. But the people there, engineers, pilots, farmers, and sealed greenhouses, knew better. This was their world, and when they heard what happened near Neptune, they didn't wait for orders. They opened the old storage vaults beneath the main dome. Inside were crates marked with faded Earth defense logos. Railgun parts, drone cores, shield emitters wrapped in plastic from decades past. They'd been stockpiled during the early days of colonization just in case. Now was that case. By dawn, the colony's main comms tower had been turned into a signal jammer. Cargo haulers were fitted with missile pods welded by hand. Teenagers who once drove ore carts now trained on simulators built from scrap. Their leader, a woman named Nora Finch, stood on the central platform and spoke to everyone through the colony net. They thought we were just workers, she said. Now they'll learn we're warriors too. Nora had once been a diplomat stationed on Varellis before the execution. She'd watched Daniel Cross die from the observation deck, just like Lena Torres. But while Lena carried grief, Nora carried fire. She knew words wouldn't save humanity anymore, but stories might. So she began broadcasting. Not just battle reports, but memories, footage of Earth cities, children playing in parks, farmers harvesting wheat under open skies. She mixed it with the raw feed of Daniel's trial over and over, until the message was clear. We are not monsters. We are people. And we will not be erased. Her broadcasts reached every human settlement within 50 light-years. On Titan, colonists played them in mess halls. On the orbital rings of Epsilon Eridani, workers paused their shifts to listen. Even the deep-range scouts near Barnard's Star picked up the signal and rebroadcast it. The Council tried to jam it, but human tech had changed. Every ship, every station, every drone could act as a relay. The message was everywhere. Meanwhile, Earth's war machine grew. Not with noise, but with purpose. In lunar shipyards, robots assembled warships from recycled habitat frames. No fancy designs. Just strong hulls, good engines, and lots of guns. On Ganymede, AI-driven foundries ran day and night, stamping out millions of microdrones. Each one could fly, fight, or spy. They filled storage bays like grains of sand. Captain Leo Grant's fleet grew too. After the Neptune battle, volunteers flooded in from every colony. Pilots who'd never seen combat signed up. Mechanics offered their skills for free. Grant didn't ask for their past. He only asked if they could follow orders and keep their nerve. Most could. His new command ship, the UNS Vigil, was built from a decommissioned terraforming vessel. It had no flashy weapons, but it carried the largest drone swarm yet, 10,000 units, each smarter than the last. His mission was clear. Patrol the edges of human space, find enemy scouts, and make sure they never reported back. He found his first target near the Sirius system. A Xanthari reconnaissance skiff, sleek and silent, drifting near a human research outpost. It hadn't fired, hadn't even hailed, but it was watching, recording. Grant didn't hesitate. He sent a drone swarm. The skiff vanished in under a minute. No survivors. No signals sent. Back on Earth, President Ruiz met with colony leaders through secure quantum links. No more central command. No more Earth decides for all. Now it was a network, each colony free to act but sharing intel, parts, and plans. It made humanity faster, harder to crush. General Hayes oversaw the big picture. His maps now showed human-controlled space not as a single dot, but as a growing web. Proxima B Titan, Epsilon Eridani. All connected. All armed. And between them, the silent choir hummed, ready to cut off any alien fleet that tried to slip through. The Council, once united, began to fracture. The Krell demanded revenge, but their fleet was broken. The Mixi feared human unpredictability. The Zinthari whispered about losing control of the periphery. Some smaller species even asked for peace talks, but the Council refused. To admit fear would be weakness. So they sent more ships, smaller groups this time, sneaky, trying to slip past human defenses. They failed. Every scout that entered human space disappeared. Every probe went dark. Human colonies didn't just defend, they hunted. Patrols roamed the void and old freighters turned fighters. They used asteroid fields as cover, solar flares as camouflage. They fought like cornered animals, smart and desperate. Nora Finch's broadcast grew bolder. She didn't just show Earth's past. She showed its present. Footage of drone factories, of kids learning to code swarm tactics in school, of farmers on Mars growing food under gun turrets. This is who we are, she said. Not conquerors, not slaves, just people who want to live. The message reached alien ears too. Not all species in the galaxy loved the Council. Some had suffered under its rule. They began to wonder maybe humanity wasn't the threat. Maybe the Council was, but Earth didn't care about allies. Not yet. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. So they kept building, kept watching, kept fighting. One night, near the edge of the Kuiper Belt, a human scout ship picked up a strange signal. Not alien, not human. It was a repeating pulse, old and weak. They traced it to a derelict vessel, pre-FTL from the early days of spaceflight. Inside they found logs, warnings, from the first human explorers who'd vanished centuries ago. They'd met something out here, something that didn't like visitors. The scout captain sent the data to Hayes. He read it, then locked it away. Some secrets weren't ready to be shared. For now, humanity had enough to handle. The Council was reeling but not broken. And Earth knew the next strike would be bigger, stronger. They had to be ready. In every colony, in every ship, in every hidden bunker, humans worked through the night. Not for glory, not for empire, but for tomorrow, for the right to wake up under their own sun on their own terms. The galaxy had called them primitive. Now it would learn the truth. Humanity wasn't just surviving. It was rising, and it would not stop until it was safe, or until nothing was left to stand in its way. The Council's last great fleet gathered at the edge of known space, 100 ships drawn from every loyal species. They came not to talk, not to scout, but to end it. High Marshal Vrak was gone, but his replacement, a Krell warlord named Zorvak, promised total victory. We will burn their worlds, he told the assembled commanders. We will salt their skies, and we will make sure no human child is ever born again. But when they jumped toward Sol, they found only silence. No signals. No ships, no signs of life on Earth, Mars, or the Moon. Even the asteroid belt seemed empty. It was as if humanity had vanished. Zorvak ordered scouts forward. They never returned. Then the fleet's FTL drives began to fail. One by one, ships dropped out of jump space, stranded. Before they could react, the silent choir struck. Chronoton pulses twisted their navigation, fried their comms, and left them blind. Then the sky opened fire. From the dark side of Mercury, railgun platforms launched rods at near-light speed. From the rings of Saturn, drone swarms poured out like locusts. From the void between Jupiter and Uranus, stealth frigates led by Captain Leo Grant unleashed hell. The Council fleet didn't stand a chance. Their ships, built for show and intimidation, crumpled under human precision. Biohulls burst open, plasma cores melted down, command links went dark. Zorvak screamed orders until his flagship's bridge exploded. His last sight was a swarm of human drones swarming his viewport like angry bees. The Galactic Council chamber floated high above the surface of Virelis, a planet made of shimmering crystal that caught the light of 3 suns and scattered it into rainbows across the walls. Inside, the air hummed with tension. Delegates from dozens of starfaring species sat in tiered rings, their forms as varied as the worlds they represented. Some had too many eyes, others none at all. Some spoke through clicks and hums, others through scent or color shifts. But all of them watched the lone human standing in the center of the chamber. His name was Daniel Cross. He wore a simple gray suit, slightly wrinkled from weeks in stasis transit. His hands were clasped behind his back, his posture straight but not stiff. He looked calm, though his heart pounded like a drum in his chest. He had come to Varelli's not as a soldier or a spy, but as Earth's envoy, a messenger of peace. Yet from the moment his shuttle docked, he sensed something was wrong. The usual greetings were absent. The honor guards did not salute. Even the air smelled different, sharp, like ozone before a storm. Now he stood accused. The charges had been read hours ago, translated into every known language by the Council's Central, a technological contamination, unsanctioned, defense escalation, violation, of the Galactic Concord's Article 7, prohibition, of autonomous weapon systems. The words sounded dry, bureaucratic, but their meaning was clear. Earth had fired on an alien probe near the edge of its solar system. The probe belonged to the Krell hegemony, one of the oldest and most powerful members of the Council. It had drifted too close to Mars, ignoring repeated warnings. Earth's orbital defense grid had locked on and destroyed it with a single pulse from a laser array. To humans, it was a simple act of self-defense. To the Council, it was an act of war. High Speaker Zintra of the Mixai, a gelatinous being that shifted colors with every word, floated forward. Her voice came through a modulator, smooth and cold. "Envoy Cross, you claim your species acted out of fear. But fear does not justify aggression." The probe was unarmed. It carried only sensors. Daniel kept his voice steady. It entered restricted space without permission. It ignored all hails. "Our laws require us to protect our planetary approaches. We assumed it was reconnaissance for a larger force." A chorus of clicks rose from the Krell delegation. Their chitin plates rattled in disapproval. Their leader, High Marshal Vrak, leaned forward on his segmented limbs. His mandibles clicked slowly, deliberately. "You assume too much, Softskin. You see shadows and call them armies. The Concord exists to prevent such paranoia from sparking war, yet you broke it first." "I didn't break anything," Daniel said. "I followed Earth's protocols, and I came here in good faith to explain." "Good faith?" Zintra rippled with violent disdain. "You bring weapons disguised as satellites. You hide AI in your defense grids. You refuse to share your quantum encryption keys. You isolate yourselves while demanding a seat at this table. That is not good faith. That is arrogance," Daniel wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that Earth had been burned before, by wars, by betrayals, by promises that vanished like smoke. That humanity had spent centuries learning to trust slowly, if at all. But he knew it wouldn't matter. The verdict had been decided before he entered the chamber. The vote came quickly. One by one, the species cast their judgment. The Zenthari, tall, feathered diplomats, lowered their wings in silent agreement. The Mixai pulsed crimson. The Krell stamped their claws. Even the smaller, neutral species, who rarely took sides, voted with the majority. Unanimous guilty. The sentence was death, not by blade or beam, but by neural dissolution, a method the Council considered humane. The condemned would feel no pain. Their mind would simply unravel. Consciousness would fade like a dream upon waking. To the Council, it was clean, efficient, respectful even. To Daniel, it was still execution. Two enforcers, tall, faceless drones clad in silver alloy, stepped forward. They placed cold, smooth cuffs around his wrists. No chains, no struggle. He didn't resist. He had known this might happen. Earth's intelligence had warned him the Council was growing impatient with humanity's independence. But he had come anyway, because someone had to stand in that chamber and say, "We are not your subjects." As they led him away, he glanced back once. Not at his accusers, but at the observation gallery high above. There, behind reinforced glass, sat a handful of human aides, junior diplomats, translators, techs. Their faces were pale. One woman, young, with dark hair pulled tight, pressed her palm against the glass. Her eyes were wide with horror. He gave her the smallest nod. "Don't mourn, remember." Outside the chamber, the sky of Virellis burned gold and violet. The execution platform was a circular disc suspended over a chasm that dropped into the planet's glowing core. Wind howled around it, carrying the scent of ionized rock. Daniel stood in the center alone. The enforcers stepped back. A soft chime sounded. A ring of light formed around his head. Warm at first, then cool. Then nothing. His last thought was not of fear, but of home, of rain on Chicago streets, of his sister's laugh, of the blue marble hanging in the black, fragile and fierce. Back on Earth, the news hit like a bomb. Every screen, every public feed, every private device lit up with the same image. Daniel Cross, standing tall, then collapsing as the light faded from his eyes. The council had broadcast it live as a warning, they claimed. As a lesson. In Washington, President Elena Ruiz watched the footage in silence. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not when she addressed the emergency cabinet. They killed him for defending our border, she said. They called it a crime. We call it duty. Across the planet, cities fell quiet. Then came the anger. Not riots, not chaos, but a cold, focused fury. Factories that had lain dormant for years whirred back to life. Military bases lit up with activity. In underground labs, scientists opened sealed files marked Echo. General Paul Hayes stood in the command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain, staring at a holographic map of the solar system. Red markers blinked near Mars, the last known position of the Krell probe. He tapped a key. A new layer appeared. Thousands of green dots hidden in asteroid belts, lunar craters, orbital shadows. Earth's true defenses, not just satellites, not just lasers, a web of silent waiting power. We didn't want this, Hayes muttered to no one in particular, but we're ready. High above, in the void between stars, the human observation shuttle that had witnessed the execution began its long journey home. On board, the young woman with dark hair, Lena Torres, sat alone in the comms room. She played Daniel's final transmission over and over. Not the official one the council released, but the raw feed she'd secretly recorded. His voice, calm to the end. Tell them I did my job. Tell them to stay strong. She wiped her eyes, then opened a secure channel to Earth Command. This is Observer Torres, she said. I'm sending everything. Every word. Every frame. They need to see what they did. And as the shuttle turned towards Sol, the first of Earth's hidden protocols began to activate. Not with a bang, but with a whisper that would soon become a roar. Beneath the snow-covered peaks of Cheyenne Mountain, deep inside a bunker lined with steel and silence, the leaders of Earth gathered. The air smelled of coffee, ozone, and tension. Screens glowed on every wall, showing maps, ship movements, and the faces of men and women from every continent. At the center of the room stood President Elena Ruiz. Her eyes were tired but sharp. She had not slept since the broadcast from Virellis. None of them had. Daniel Cross was gone. Killed not in battle, but in a courtroom of aliens who saw humanity as a problem to be solved. Now Earth had to decide what kind of problem it would become. General Paul Hayes stood near the main console, arms crossed. His uniform was crisp, his voice low. They think we're weak, he said. They think we'll beg for mercy or hide in our cities. They don't know what we've built. Around him, others nodded, not with excitement, but with grim understanding. For decades, Earth had played the quiet neighbor in the galaxy. It signed treaties it didn't trust. It shared data it didn't want to share. All while working in secret on something else, something the Council never saw coming. That something was Project Echo. It wasn't a weapon. Not exactly. It was a plan, a backup. A promise made in the dark years after the last World War, when humanity realized that if aliens ever came, they wouldn't come as friends. They'd come as judges. So Earth prepared, not just armies, but everything. Every factory, every power grid, every satellite, every drone used for mining or farming was designed to switch roles in an emergency. A cargo ship could become a troop carrier. A weather satellite could jam enemy signals. Even city power plants could reroute energy to orbital defense lasers. Maya Briggs sat at a side terminal, fingers flying over the keys. She was young, brilliant, and had spent the last 7 years working on the Silent Choir, a network of stealth satellites hidden in the asteroid belt. No weapons, no engines, just tiny nodes that could emit a special pulse, one that messed with faster-than-light travel. Aliens used quantum folds to jump across space. The choir could make those folds collapse, Not destroy them, just twist them enough to strand a ship in normal space, blind and slow. It's ready, she said quietly. All 300 nodes are online. We can activate the full network in under 10 seconds.